wraps the world's biggest global stories and brings you up close with the biggest newsmakers. And a 30-minute show that aims to bring the India story to the world. We help you understand global developments from an Indian perspective. I'm Vikram Chandra, and this is WION, World is One, taking India's voice to the world.
Vielleicht nur als imposant.
Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from New York. I'm Susan Tehrani, and these are the top headlines this hour. Global investment banking major Goldman Sachs to cut over 3,000 jobs across core trading and banking units. The layoffs are said to be part of preparations for a tough economic environment in 2023. Over 400 people have been arrested after supporters of former Brazil President Jair Bolsonaro stormed government buildings. President Lula visits the scene of the riot, condemns the incidents, and calls the demonstrators fascists. U.S. President Joe Biden finally visits the U.S.-Mexico border. It's his first trip since taking office. He aims to tackle one of America's most politically charged issues, immigration. NFL player Damar Hamlin watches on from the hospital as his team, the Buffalo Bills, claim an emotional charged 35-23 win over the New England Patriots in their first game since his cardiac arrest. Goldman Sachs is expected to cut thousands of jobs as a new wave of economic threats surrounds the market. While 3,000 job cuts are expected, the final number is yet to be determined. Layoffs are likely to affect all major divisions of the company, but the investment banking division would be the most vulnerable to change in headcount. Institutional banks have suffered a major slowdown in corporate deals as the global financial market continues to remain volatile. Hundreds of jobs are likely to be reduced from Goldman Sachs' loss market consumer business after it scaled back plans for its Marcus unit, citing a direct-to-consumer market. American companies ranging from tech giant Amazon and Twitter to bigger banks like Goldman Sachs are going for major job cuts under the shadow of a looming recession that is likely to hit most of the economies in the current year. For more on this, Daniel Geltrude, American business analyst and economist, is joining us live from Nutley, New Jersey. Good morning, Daniel. What does this mean for the average American when we hear about these layoffs at Goldman Sachs? Should we be worried?
Well, it's all about signaling, because what Goldman Sachs is saying is that they're pretty sure we could expect a slowdown in the economy through 2023. Now, these cuts are not entirely unexpected, but It is a big difference from where we were just a year ago. Keep in mind that Goldman Sachs is not just looking at laying people off, a significant number of people. They're also going to be cutting back on their bonuses. Now, that doesn't necessarily affect the average person, but again, it's a signal of what may be to come for all of us, which is some choppy waters.
And just to make a sense of all of this, we're hearing that small businesses are still struggling to find employees. So how does this work where big companies like Goldman Sachs, Twitter, and other companies are reporting layoffs, but on the other hand, you have smaller businesses that can't even find someone to work for them?
Well, the big question here is that with these layoffs that we're seeing with the large companies, are those people going to end up taking openings at smaller businesses? Now, if that's the case, that would be a good sign, obviously, for small business who have had an extremely difficult time being able to find people to work. So we could have just a replacement of some workers. But if that's not the case, then we kind of get a double shot here where you have big companies laying people off and smaller businesses still unable to fill positions. Remember, there are still about 10 million job openings in the United States. That's a lot of job openings.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Daniel Gertrude, thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One. We'll try to make a sense of all of this, and we hope to see you back for more details and analysis.
Thank you.
As the debate around the migrant issue heats up in the U.S., President Joe Biden finally visited the U.S.-Mexico border. The visit marks his first since assuming office in 2020. Although the visit was not expected to result in new policies, the White House hoped that it demonstrates that the president is taking the issue seriously. Biden's visit comes days after the U.S. announced expanding migration restrictions. The measures, made public by the U.S. president himself, aims to rapidly expel migrants from Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, who are caught illegally crossing the U.S. border. The new rules will also include offering humanitarian parole for up to 30,000 people a month from those four countries if they apply online and find a financial sponsor. During his visit, Biden was joined by his Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, and he met with congressional lawmakers, local officials, and community leaders. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott also met Biden in El Paso. He handed the president a letter outlining 5 steps to address the border crisis. The plan includes detaining millions of people who entered the United States illegally. The Republican governor blamed Biden for the situation at the border towns, where Abbott says Biden's policies have only served to embolden the cartels who profit from human and drug trafficking. The White House said Biden is assessing border enforcement operations in El Paso, where the Democratic mayor declared a state of emergency last month. The emergency was imposed as hundreds of migrants occupied the streets in bitter cold, while thousands were being apprehended every day. Biden's visit to the border comes ahead of a planned North America summit starting later today in Mexico. The summit will be attended by Mexican President Andrés Obrador and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. One of the best-known Cold War spies caught by the United States has been released from prison after more than 20 years in custody. 65-year-old Anna Montes spent almost 2 decades spying for Cuba while being employed as an analyst at the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency. After her arrest in 2001, officials said she had almost entirely exposed U.S. intelligence operations on the island. Some officials say she was among the most damaging spies caught by the United States. Meanwhile, the U.S. Congress was told in 2012 that Montes had, quote, compromised everything after her arrest. Montes was accused of supplying the identities of 4 U.S. spies and oceans of classified material. She was handed a 25-year prison sentence. The sentencing judge accused her of putting the nation as a whole at risk. She was finally detained in September 2001 after U.S. intelligence officials received a tip that a government employee seemed to be spying for Cuba. One of the FBI agents who arrested her said she had appeared stoic upon her arrest. Montes will remain under supervision for 5 years after her release and will have her internet usage monitored. She will also be banned from working from the government or contacting foreign agents without permission.
The cost of ensuring our security to the south will escalate.
A massive Pacific storm unleashed high winds, torrential rains, and heavy snow across California after a week of downpours. The heavy rainstorm knocked out power for thousands of homes and businesses. Officials, after evacuating high-risk coastal areas, are still warning of more heavy rain and snow to fall through this week. The governor has declared a state of emergency, and other officials urged Californians to avoid travel during the storm. Until now, the storm has reported at least 6 deaths. Forecasters warned that northern and central California was still in the path of a relentless parade of cyclones. The deadly storm was powered by 2 overlapping phenomena, which are an immense airborne stream of dense moisture flowing off the ocean called an atmospheric river and a sprawling hurricane-force low-pressure system known as a bomb cyclone. The 2 key factors impacted the extreme weather across the country, becoming the strongest to strike California since early last week. According to data shared by the Electricity Department, more than 460,000 residents were still without power in California. The National Weather Service warned that the West Coast is still under major threats as storms in the Pacific Ocean are likely to intensify. Many residents have lost their properties and are forced to live in despair. Forecasters, on the other hand, predict more storms in the coming days, with at least 5 feet of snow likely to fall on the Sierra Nevada mountains. In a bid to protect satellites crucial in military surveillance and operations, the United States of America is finalizing plans to extend its security umbrella for Japan into space. The extended protection would be covered in Article 5 of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty, which obligates Washington to defend Japan if territory under its administrative control is attacked, and Japan's satellite would come under such a control. Both U.S. and Japan also aim to strengthen their deterrence by underscoring their commitment to respond against an enemy attack with force. Cyberspace was added to the U.S. defense commitment in 2019, further expanding it from land, air, or maritime attack. Both countries are also scheduled to hold bilateral security talks involving their foreign defense ministers in Washington on January 11th. During what is called the 2+2 meeting, the 2 countries plan to discuss their shared vision of a modernized alliance, one that will tackle the 21st century challenges in the Indo-Pacific and around the world. The talks will take place ahead of a planned meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden and the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on January 13th. Military activity in space is on the rise, notably after China and Russia intensified their efforts to obstruct the use of space by others. Russia's war in Ukraine has already highlighted the importance of space for military purposes. The satellite communications are essential for launching missiles and operating drones. Satellites are also important in strengthening Japan's defense capabilities, including readiness for a Taiwan contingency. Meanwhile, Japan's revised defense strategy further emphasized the importance of long-range missiles as well as the use of electromagnetic waves and drones, which all rely on satellites. Tensions continue to simmer in the Taiwan Strait. China's military has said that it has carried out combat drills around Taiwan. This is the second such exercise to take place in less than a month. The latest Chinese drills were focused on land strikes and sea assaults. Releasing a statement, the People Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command said that its forces had organized joint combat readiness patrols and actual combat drills in sea and airspace around Taiwan. The statement further said that the aim of the exercise was to test joint combat capabilities and resolutely counter the provocative actions of external forces and Taiwan independent separatist forces. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry further reported that it had detected 57 Chinese aircraft and 4 naval vessels operating around the island in the last 24 hours. The island's defense ministry further said that 28 Chinese aircraft also flew into Taiwan's air defense zone by crossing the Taiwan Strait median line. China carried out similar exercises late last month as well when Taiwan reported 43 Chinese aircraft crossings when it crossed the Taiwan Strait's median line. Beijing, which has never renounced the use of force to bring Taipei under its control, staged war games near Taiwan. In August last year, after former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the self-ruled island, Taiwan, meanwhile, has constantly rejected Beijing's sovereignty claims, asserting on how only the island's 23 million people can decide their future. Meanwhile, a delegation of German MPs have said that they're traveling to Taiwan ahead of an anticipated ministerial visit later this year.
今早已习惯了铁翼群英。
Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, China has remained rigid in opening its borders. And since March 2020, China has officially reopened its borders to international visitors. Incoming travelers are no longer bound by the country's strict quarantine rules. This brings another change to Beijing's zero COVID policy, as it deals with a surge in cases. However, the travelers still need to show a negative PCR test dating no more than 48 hours of traveling. Many people have welcomed this move as they want to reunite with their families. In coming weeks, only from Hong Kong, around 400,000 people are expected to travel into mainland China. But the reopening of borders also brings in fear of more COVID-19 cases. According to reports, people are concerned about the opening of the borders. Over the past 3 years, China followed one of the world's strictest COVID policies, which saw a number of lockdowns and daily testings. This also had a significant impact on China's economy. Recently, following mass protests across the country, the Chinese government walked away from its zero COVID policy. Many citizens also believe the strict policies are the reason behind many deaths, but the authorities deny the allegation. Shifting tracks to the NFL, Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin watched on from the Cincinnati Medical Center as his team made a winning return in their first game since he suffered a cardiac arrest on the field on January 2nd. They defeated New England Patriots in an emotionally charged encounter. Hamlin's health and recovery has dominated all NFL coverage since last Monday when he collapsed to the ground after taking a hit in the game against the Cincinnati Bengals. But since then, he has been recovering well and is being able to breathe on his own. The 24-year-old posted a photo of himself on Twitter that showed him sitting up in his hospital bed and cheering for his teammates. He even expressed his desire to be out there with the team and spoke to the players and coaches in the build-up to their game against the Patriots. Take a listen.
That we stand behind him. He's our family, you know, Bill's Mafia.
Thank you. I got 2 markers. I got 3 markers.
Yeah, we just broke it down. He was FaceTiming with us. He broke us down, actually, his voice. So that was cool, too. He got the game ball, as well as our trainers and our training staff. So it is a good feeling in there right now, no doubt.
Hamlin followed the match closely and, like any excited fan, tweeted more than a dozen times during the match. The Bills wore patches of number 3, which is Hamlin's jersey number, and a special applause was reserved for the medical personnel who had revived Hamlin on the patch a week ago. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell attended the final regular season game wearing a blue cap with Hamlin's number 3 on it. All matches across the NFL featured tributes to Hamlin. Back to the match then, and Nyheim Hines returned the game's opening kickoff 96 yards for a touchdown that left many players on the sideline in disbelief, and viewers as well. The Bills went on to register a 35-23 victory and secured the 2nd seed in the American Football Conference for the playoffs. The win was dedicated to Hamlin and the first responders who saved his life. The 24-year-old is also raising money for the hospital and first responders by releasing shirts having his famous "Did we win?" quote, which was the first question he asked after gaining consciousness in the hospital.
It was electric, and we've had so many prayers and so much support, and be able to start the game off like that, it's amazing. I even talked to family and friends, and I just said, look, we're going to be ready today. Our boys are going to play spirited, and just being around all those guys, even though I have not been here a long time, it even motivated me. And you've seen, like, we have 3s on. I had 3 on my iPads today. It's been amazing, but all that was for him, and I'm happy for the things that happened to me, but I was spirited. I felt like he was out there with us.
Guests at the CES 2023 were served drinks by Adam. What's surprising is that the name Adam is not of a human, but a robot. This robotic bartender serves drinks from milk, tea to passion fruit. Adam prepares the drinks the customer chooses through a digital touchscreen. Take a look. That's all for WION Live Broadcast from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani. Thank you for staying with us and watching, but don't go away. More news and headlines coming up next on WION World is One.
On the next episode of World of Africa. Outcry grows after journalists in South Sudan are detained for covering President Salva Kiir as Somalian government prosecutes a journalist union leader. Seeking a peaceful future, joy in Abidjan after Mali junta leader pardons all 49 Ivorian soldiers whose arrest in July last year triggered a bitter diplomatic row. And maybe peace could return with a new year. as the rebels of the March 23 movement M23 announced their withdrawal from the town of Rumagabo, about 50 kilometers from North Kivu. All this and much more at these times, only on WION World is One.
It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker, weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Reading between the lines. Deep diving into the big story of the day. From political turmoil to economic crisis. From the brazen to the bizarre in the world of technology, sports and fashion. News from Earth to outer space. We bring you the harsh ground realities, as well as the finer things from this planet and beyond. Only on fine print at these times on WION.